music. It's easy to forget nowadays how much of a struggle it was to get your favorite music only like a few decades ago. Because, you know, you got your compact discs and these things are like 40 years old now. You got your cassettes, these are like 60 years old. But man, we're gonna go back a long time to the first music format that was, you know, successful back then. So, let's take a look. Yes. This is an old Shellac record from, I don't even know from what year that is. It doesn't say anything. But this one is a real Shellac record because Shellac records play at 78 RPM. And look there, 78 R, not enough money for the PM. These were very popular like 100 years ago. And these were what most people listened to music at their homes. But there were some problems with these. Yeah. And some that are, you know, pretty important, like play quality and sound and all of that, and the durability of these discs alone, because they are brittle. So if you were to drop these from, I don't know, like waist high, then they would shatter. These things don't sustain anything. Like, they are so weak, and I could probably snap one if I wanted to right now, but I'm not going to because I only have a finite amount of these shellac discs. Okay, but what are its negatives? And you can see the bag, man. So, negative number one is that it plays at 78 RPMs per minute. That is a lot. Like, if you consider, like, a CD spins at 200, so this is almost half a CD when it comes to, you know, spinning. But I guess the biggest problem with these were that you have to have a special stylus, or otherwise you cannot play them. And you know, you have your diamond stylus, your quartz stylus, your sapphire stylus, and they all just ever so slightly scrape along the sides of the record to make sound. Well, for these you need steel, and they're not gently scraping on the edges, they are ripping on those edges. I haven't heard one of those played live, like I don't have a gramophone, but I can imagine that after playing a 78 record like 10 times with a steel stylus that's pressured at, I don't know, but probably like 10 grams, that is probably gonna wear away the music very quickly. And another thing is that the grooves here are also thicker, so you need a thicker stylus for them. But there are still some manufacturers that actually sell replacement styluses for 78 records. So, you know, if you have an Audio-Technica player, which I do, then you can just go to Audio-Technica's website and purchase one, and that's no problem, and you can actually enjoy them. But I don't know if you could enjoy that. And please don't comment below how I'm holding this record, I know, but I'm never going to play these. This is just for demonstration purposes. And so, after a couple of decades, people wanted a replacement, something that lasts longer, something that sounds better. And you all know what comes next: vinyl. If you didn't know, in the 40s there was a little format war going on between 7-inch vinyl and 12-inch vinyl. And you know, the arguments for the 7-inch were that they were cheaper to make, and if you wanted to buy an album, you just get like an album, like a real album, that's where the term comes from, of like 10 or, okay, maybe not 10, but like 5 or 6 of these, and they can store all your music. And I don't think that's a good idea. You know, it's cheaper than a 12-inch, yeah, sure, but then you have to make 5 of them for an album, which only requires 1 or 2 of these. But if you want to learn more about that format war, then I'm gonna link down below the Techmoan channel or the Techmoan video. Okay, so vinyl is here. We're now like in the 40s or 50s, depending on, you know, what record label. Some adopted it earlier, some adopted it later. Back then, the records were mono. So the walls of the grooves where the needle is getting its music from were the same length all around. So they were all always following each other. And then when stereo came, these walls weren't connected to each other. So they were all playing like different things. You can hear that especially well on Beatles records, early Beatles stereo records, because they were going so crazy with stereo back then. So you have like the drums on the left side and the vocals on the right side. and the guitar on the left side and the bass in the middle, like, very weird. But that is the best way you can actually, you know, listen to your music in stereophonic. Vinyl records have also seen a huge resurgence in popularity in the last couple of years, because people realized, well, vinyl is cool again, and it's really nice to see all of these stores that completely abandoned vinyl for like a decade and a half to bring them back. But why is that? So let's just take out this record for no specific reason. So this album is Jack White's Lazaretto. And why did I bring out this record? Well, if you look here, first of all, it has no run-out groove, which is weird. Then, on this side, it has, on the run-out groove, it has these weird scratches that, you know, should not be there in the best case scenario, but they actually serve a purpose. Like, oh my god, that is a fucking angel on the disc. That is incredibly cool, but that's not all. Because if we go back to this side with no run-out groove, then, you know, this side is weird because it doesn't play from the outside in, it plays from the inside out. And also on one of these tracks, I think it was the first track, there are two different intros, an acoustic intro and an electric intro. And depending on where you drop the needle, you can hear either one. And that is well made. Like, I couldn't even think of all of these features that this record has. And that's also the point I'm trying to make. Vinyl is cool. Vinyl sure does have a few limitations, like it's only stereo, like Apple Music is trying to push hard Dolby Atmos right now. So if that ever becomes like the industry standard, then we won't get that on vinyl. But vinyl is infinitely customizable. If you've seen my video about the Queen box set, which, yes, it has a render error, I know that, but I won't upload it again, that video is pretty bad. But you see that all of these records are colored, and some of them have an etching on them, and that makes them very unique. And not only for record collectors, but also for people that just like the aesthetic of records. Like, there are so many people that just hang their records on their wall because they like the look and never actually listen to it, which is a bit of a sham, because if you do that, well, maybe you should own a record player at least. And vinyl is on its course to become the most popular music format right now, again, after CDs have taken over. And probably because of its customization features, like artists drop 3 different versions of their albums, like the 1975 did. I have all of the 1975 albums, and I have every version of A Brief Inquiry into Online Relationships, and I have every version of Notes on a Conditional Form. And what's interesting about the Notes on a Conditional Form vinyls is that they are recyclable, or that they were recycled. They are made from recycled records, and if you don't want them any longer in a few years, or I don't know, if you start to hate the 1975, then you can just put them in a recyclable like container, and it's gone. That's very cool to reduce the footprint. And if the industry gives a damn about climate change and all of that, then they will also adopt that later, and I hope they will. Let's continue our journey down the pipeline. You know, after the vinyl record was released, in the 60s developed, and in the 70s established the compact cassette. You know, I've made a video about cassettes a while back, and since then I haven't really gotten back into cassettes as much as I've been into vinyl for the last like 4 years. Cassettes and vinyl were sold at the same time, sort of like a companion to each other. So if you want hi-fi quality at home, you buy a vinyl record, and if you want music on the go for one of these Walkmen, then you bought a cassette. Cassettes were developed as sort of like a follow-up to the reel-to-reel player, which was popular in like 1950s and maybe the 60s even, but then extremely quickly faded out of existence. And this is basically the same concept. So a reel-to-reel player, you have like a tape, and you have these spools. You know, you have to rewind the tape every time you want to listen to it, and this is just the same tape in an enclosure, and also a bit slimmer. Philips had incredibly crazy ideas before they settled on this design. Again, I'm gonna link the Techmoan channel down below. You know, cassettes top out at like 6.5 to 8 kilohertz, so it doesn't have the highs that, you know, CDs have. And it also is a bit overblown with bass. You know, these tapes, the Type 1 tapes that are now made today, which are the low quality ones, they have an emphasis on bass. So bass sounds really good on these actually, but the high frequencies don't really match anything that I have. So with all of the limitations that cassettes have, like the limited dynamic range and that they cost so much nowadays if you want to buy like a new one, I surely must hate them. No, I actually love them. Cassettes were also such a huge deal back then that I think for multiple years, when vinyl was getting a bit old now in the 90s, that cassettes actually sold more than vinyls. But then came, you know it all, Wham! Or well, the compact disc. I made a video about compact discs last video, and these things are generally pretty cool, and you can see me, hello. It's crazy to think about that this format is already 40 years old, because it still sounds good and CDs are still the benchmark for every music thing ever. If you want good, standard, high quality audio, CDs are your way to go. Like no MP3 can match that, or maybe they could if you have bad hearing like I do. For people that actually have good hearing, CDs sound a lot better than like even the highest bitrate MP3 or AAC or whatever codec your streaming service uses. So now with the gang fully assembled, all I can say is choose your own music format. If you like vinyl records for its aesthetic purposes, for its sound quality, then go for vinyl records. And they're also cool, but they are expensive, like really expensive. I have some in my collection that were over $50. I have some in my collection that are over $100. And you know, if you want to start a vinyl collection like I do, here's the video or here's a picture of my vinyl collection, then you have to have money. Also keep in mind that I've started collecting in 2018, that's why I have so many vinyls. I'm not like rich. I make YouTube videos, okay? So thank you for watching. If you want to learn more about Discman players and CDs, check out my last video, which is very cool. If you want to know more about cassettes, go to the Techmoan channel. And if you want to learn about the secret format war that happened in the 40s, then also go to the Techmoan channel. I have shouted out Techmo more than myself in this video. Yeah. Okay, thanks for watching. Leave a thanks up. This is now my catchphrase. Bye.